Welcome to Building Bulletproof Backs, where we redefine the mainstream medical approach to healing stubborn back pain. Join physiotherapist and movement addict Marian McRae on a mission to end the back pain epidemic. Building bulletproof backs requires mental, physical, and emotional strategy. Hope is not enough. Listen now as she interviews real-life back pain sufferers who have found a way out of the nightmare and introduces you to leading-edge teachers with powerful tools that can change your life. You can do this. Your body knows how to heal. You just got to learn how to get out of its way. Now, let's get into today's episode.
Neil, welcome.
Thank you.
Just knocked off work, as I have.
Yeah.
We are recording the next episode of Building a Bulletproof Back, and I've invited Neil to come in because Neil has some great links, and I hear great feedback from his classes. He teaches foundation training in Margaret River. Just another one of the amazing back care opportunities in Margaret River you can access. But I really wanted to pick his brain about foundation training today. So, Neil, before we get to that, tell us a little bit about you. Who are you? What are you?
I suppose I'd call myself a Margaret River local now.
Yeah.
Been here since 1990, so just touching on 30 years. Formerly from northern New South Wales, local plumber, and picked up foundation training a few years ago. And it was out of necessity, and it's become a beautiful habit.
Great.
And a source of enjoyment as I've learned how to teach it. So
great.
Yeah, but
so you're plumber by day,
by
foundation
day,
trainer in the afternoons.
by a couple of afternoons per week. And it's
that's
really
a nice mix for getting your own movement built into a little routine, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. It was, like I said, I was lucky enough to be shown foundation by a local gym operator here who, as well as owning and running the gym, a very busy gym, he said he had an exercise modality that really targeted people with chronic back pain.
Okay.
And I went, oh, yeah, rightio. And once I'd done, or my whole family had done pretty much 2 or 3 classes with him, it was different enough to be really different.
Yeah, right.
But totally conceivable that it would make you stronger in the right areas.
Right. So how did for you to be interested in it, you must have had a bit of a sore back yourself?
Yeah, I suppose if we use this thing called our body, what do they say? Pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, kind of thing. So,
I like that.
Yeah, I suppose over the decades of plumbing and doing sports like, soccer, martial arts, surfing, on top of working, lower back pain almost seemed like it was inevitable. And
are you saying that just because you were doing a lot of different things? Just the volume of stuff you were doing?
No. I'm almost thinking that we're led to believe, George is having his say.
It is.
We're led to believe either through our family contacts or our...
Hold up there.
Very natural.
Just hold up one sec. Get it. Okay, George has sorted out. Carry on.
Okay, so just to pick up, I think either through our family environment or our friendships or our work environment, we're led to believe, particularly in the building trade or construction industry, as it might be known in other countries, we're led to believe that back pain is inevitable, and it's almost like, so you got a sore back, suck it up.
Wow.
Which is kind of, well, if you want to.
Do you subscribe to that, knowing what you know now?
No.
Good.
No.
It's a bit like runners and running injuries. Runners assume that if you're a runner, you have a running injury.
Yeah.
Which is just not how it needs to be. So it's good to challenge that.
Yeah. And I suppose I've always had an interest in the body and when pain stops you doing certain things that you want to do, well, there's two things there. Pain's the body's messenger, isn't it? Something's got to change.
Yeah.
But it's also there to stop us further injuring ourselves. So I've asked enough people, professional practitioners around town, of which this town's amazing for its different levels of expertise in town.
And perspectives, hey?
Yes.
Like we've got every colour of the rainbow. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're probably making Margaret River the back pain capital. Might start a whole new industry in Margaret River. Back pain holidays.
Yeah, so that might deter people from coming here if it's worded incorrectly.
That's right. We might get funding from the tourist campaigns though. But anyway.
Yeah. So I suppose with this annoyance of back pain, shoulder pain, hamstring issues when I was playing soccer and stuff, I suppose I was always wanting to find out why.
Yeah.
And, it's not good enough just to accept it and try and mitigate pain with medication. It never sat well with me. I think that's a little bit of my mother's side coming out. She was never big for the pharmacy.
Right.
So, when my family and I were first exposed to foundation training, it was odd. I won't sugarcoat it. The exercises are strenuous and they're odd and they're uncomfortable.
Do they start strenuous or is there a progression?
No, there's absolutely an entry-level beginners where you are asked to listen to instructors and your own body to gain an understanding of this muscle integration that you're being asked to hold under tension.
Right.
So if I can coin the phrase, build off a good foundation, which you form with this muscle tension and isometric hold.
Right.
And then you go into slight movements and or static poses. That a bit like if you would hold a push-up halfway down or halfway up, or a chin-up halfway down, halfway up. That time under tension is not going to deliver much pleasure or comfort. I mean, you don't want to brag about doing your 2 push-ups that took you 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an extreme sort of, analogy.
So there's discomfort, which is effort of the muscular system.
Yes.
And you need to apply effort or stress to stimulate some response.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
so
interesting.
Through a series of static holds and movements, there's this time under tension that is in the muscles. It's not in the joints.
Right.
So there's a bit of a mantra in the foundation group, but I'd imagine a lot of people share this. And if we can ask the muscles to bear a lot of the load, maybe the bones and the joints and the ligaments don't have to.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're wrong to ask so much of the bones and the ligaments and the joints to hold such a load, whether we're exercising or just simply walking or even sitting.
Yeah.
Whereas if we can ask the muscles to do more as a group, I think we'd enjoy moving more.
It's a two-way. It's a feed forward, isn't it? I mean, one of Gary's rules is joints act, muscles react.
Yeah.
I know from my Pilates training, the emphasis is on the muscular system. No mention of the joints. Gary's work is a lot about joint motions.
Yep.
So I think, who cares? As long as we're stimulating a system in a functional way to get stronger.
Yes.
Yeah, and we can argue about what came first, chicken or the egg.
Yeah.
If someone feels stronger and finds benefit, they're kind of theoretical arguments which probably no one knows the answer to. But it's nice to look at them from different perspectives.
Exactly. I think a bit like a lot of things in medicine as well, we're looking for the same destination. Yeah. But the route that we take to get to that destination can be not wrong or right. It's just different.
Totally. And
everybody's body is different. So
and that's where the prescription, when one of my pet peeves is the 7 yoga moves for back pain. Or I think, man, I don't think I've ever given anyone the same movement twice.
No.
Like, there's such uniqueness in the prescriptions. But having said that, if someone's drawn to Pilates or yoga or something, you know, that's part of your guidance saying, yeah, that path's for me. So it's nice that we can trust that all these different disciplines exist, and as long as we've got that built-in respect for the signals we're getting, I think we can try anything. Yeah,
absolutely. And there's no one fit for all, that's for sure.
No.
You know, what resonates with somebody 1 month might not resonate with them the next.
And maybe your back, as it's progressing through its recovery, might need it. It might initially feel like it needs a bit more of a stretch, and then you might think, okay, I feel like I need to strengthen it now. So, you know, I think that variety of stimulus is what bodies need perpetually.
Yeah. And if I can just talk a little bit about the person who developed this.
Yeah.
Dr. Eric.
Tell me about him.
So Dr. Eric Goodman is his name. He's a chiropractor in the US, and through his own necessity, he was advised to get back surgery by more than one surgeon when he was going through chiropractic school. That was unacceptable to him. But in his teaching of the likes of the local plumber or the Pilates instructor or whoever he teaches to teach his work, he doesn't discount before you decide that somebody's back pain, knee pain, hip pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, whatever, before you as an instructor decide that foundation is absolutely going to fix it, which is not something that any foundation trainer or anybody really with their modality should or would subscribe to. But it's information is king. So the local plumber obviously can't order an MRI. He can't order an X-ray. He can't read an X-ray. So if somebody's got back pain, it might not be musculoskeletal. It might be something, you know, unfortunately, a lot more sinister than that. So you can't have this God complex where you're going to say, yeah, I can fix that.
Yeah.
You need, you know, there's a reason why people go to university and there's all this technology and stuff to dig deeper into this body of ours to find out the root cause of the pain. If there is no lesions or anything that are causing pain or structural damage, then it's up to the user, the body, the person in that body that's feeling pain. You've got a raft of choices in front of you to try and find out how we can alleviate the root cause of the pain.
Yeah.
So, you know, for the short term, it might be medication.
Yep.
In some cases, it might be surgery. Hopefully, you've exhausted the non-intervention or, you know, the more passive or sustainable changes to get rid of pain, which might be movement, exercises. Could even be rest.
Yeah, rest. That's a good one, actually. How often is rest just exactly what's needed?
And that's where I think we can take our cue from animals a lot.
Yes.
You know? Obviously
like
a dog.
George.
Obviously a dog owner. Animals rest when they're seriously hurt. They rest.
Well, they rest a lot more, even when they're not hurt. You know, I have a cat and a dog, and they're perpetually resting. You know, George has his activity, and then he just crashes, and I think, wow, they are a constant reminder to do less.
Yeah, they do stretch, but they don't warm up.
Yeah.
Yeah, there might be a message there.
That's right. No one wants to hear rest, but it's usually only rest from certain angles, certain positions, certain movements. It's not everything. And it's, you know, it's that classic, you know, it only hurts when I bend down. Yeah, we'll stop bending down, you know, find a new way.
Yeah, find a new way to bend.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so
how long into doing foundation did you start to find benefit in your own back?
Okay, so I'd say if I was practicing foundation twice a week in a class, I think it would have been a month to 6 weeks before I really noticed a change in the way I moved and walked But the change in the way I move and positive change in the way I felt.
Right.
And more awareness when I did other exercises, particularly ballistic exercises. So if I was asked to do something explosive, I just tone that back a bit.
Okay.
So you got to, sometimes quantity should be ignored and just go for quality. And then,
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then you can, once you've got, boxing, dancing, we don't do them at 100 miles an hour in our first class.
No.
So we learn it, we learn the movement, we learn the locomotion of it.
Right.
There's a reason why we take so long to walk and all the rest of it. And I think the same goes for, when you learn something that can get you out of pain.
Yeah.
Maybe sort of push a few other things to the side and pursue that a little bit.
Well, it is that. It's got to almost take priority for a little while. Recovery needs to be top of the pops in terms of priority. And I was only having this conversation with someone yesterday, totally honest. She said, I haven't done anything you've told me to do. Hats off for honesty. Appreciate it. And I said, well, I can kind of tell because nothing's changed.
Yeah.
And I was like, so, we got to unpack that. Why are you coming here spending money with me if you're not going to action anything I say? Like, I'm not a miracle worker. It's definitely, but, there's reasons. And she said, and it just came back to her value structure. So her family and her work currently rate higher on her list of priorities than her own personal health. And, when we could unpack that a bit and say, well, you're no good to your family. And you can't keep working if you don't have your health. So it's that DeMartini idea of linking your back and its improvement to your higher values. Yeah. And once you can do that, you start to see it naturally happens. There's then no resistance in taking action because you see the value.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, that's getting off track.
Yeah, but also on that track is the amount of time and emotion spent on either pain itself or the anticipation of pain.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's a drag. Like if you're meant to be getting up and maybe running over a few things with your kids before school or whatever, but you've got this nagging feeling as you lay in bed in 2 out of 10 pain that by the time your feet hit the floor, you might be in 6 to 7 out of 10 pain. Straight away, you've got this emotional attachment to the pain that's robbing you and your family of some more important things. And it's a drag.
How do you suggest people get around that?
Address the pain. Yeah,
like get to the issue.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, absolutely. If pain, if pain is causing you to focus on it rather than some more enjoyable things in your life, then clearly you've either got to be able to mentally deal with the pain so it's not in the forefront of your thoughts or do something about it.
Well, I think this is another thing, just a lesson this week. I've had quite a few people, I just get on with it. I feel it and I say, what's your response when you feel it? I just get on with it. And I don't know if that's culturally the Aussie way. I just put up with it and get on with it. Man, like
there's
the
plenty of
only choice that the body has if you take that approach is to get louder because it is feedback. Like you said, right at the start, it's just trying to let you know something.
Yeah.
And if we shift perspective and see it as just feedback from the body saying something needs tweaking and we don't listen, then that's whatever it was still needs tweaking. So the body's got to get your attention to make it louder and more constant. And, you're really better off in the early stages to develop this relationship with your body that if there is this persistent, signal, sit and explore it. What do you want me to know? Is it something I'm thinking about? Is it some stress or some action I need to take at work or in my relationship or with my finances or whatever? But the avoidance of looking at it takes more energy than just shining the light and going, here we are, let's do this, as uncomfortable as that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, there's plenty of analogies there that, you can put another.
Yeah, give us one.
Well, the rust that's in your car. Just put another coat of paint on it. It makes it look good for a while.
You can get away with it. No one knows it's there.
Yeah, the stitching time saves 9.
Yeah.
So,
I use the analogy usually of the warning light on your car's dashboard.
Yeah. put a bit of tape over the bum, but
right.
that's not
It's
sustainable.
still there. And eventually, just like the car, it's going to break down.
Yeah,
the
the
body's
car
going to
analogy.
break down.
The
It's
car
a good one.
analogy is a good one because
It
we
is.
all know how much we value our car, particularly when we're just about to go on holidays.
Yes.
Give it a nice tune-up, new tyres, whatever.
And more.
But don't do that to our body.
People probably spend more on the car each year than their body.
No, absolutely.
It's just crazy, isn't it?
Well, I do own a 1996 model car, so I can definitely say I spend more money on per year.
So what's the state of your back now?
I don't even think about it.
Great. And do you feel like you can move freely in all the different directions you want to move?
Yes.
Great.
And I'm glad you said that I want to move. So I think that's a big part of people's I don't really want to use the word journey, but I'm going to. But if you've got a journey, you need to
We're in
travel.
River,
Yeah. So I think people have got to be honest with themselves. What do you want to do with your body? And train accordingly. Like, let's pick extreme range of motion. How many people with their work or their leisure activities need extreme range of motion?
Good point.
I would say a rock climber would need to be definitely able to get their foot up around their shoulder.
A tree arborist. Yeah.
A gymnast.
A office-based desk worker probably doesn't need it, huh?
Yeah. So I'm not discounting extreme range of movement as a pursuit, but, maybe you can back the extreme off and just get range of movement or movement.
Yeah, and stability in the mid-range.
So
yeah, because the yoga instructors are a classic case of that. A lot of them have amazing range, but they've still got back pain.
Yeah.
So it's no guarantee that if you create that range that you will lose your pain. There's more at play a lot of the time.
So you asked me, how is my back pain now?
Yeah.
I led onto that little branch road. I don't even think about my back pain now until it flares up.
Right.
And when I say a flare up, I used to be in constant nagging lower back pain. So a flare-up would take it from, say, 2.5 on the pain scale right up to 8.5 and beyond. Now it sits at just a nice indistinguishable level as opposed to leg pain from going for a walk or a swim or shoulder or bicep pain from doing something, chin-up bars or something like that.
Yeah.
So I don't even think about the mild level of sensation I have in my back, particularly my lower back.
Yeah.
When it goes up to, say, 4 to 5 out of 10, might be on the back of a day of doing a lot of digging or lifting or I did something in a gym or at home, and I'll notice I'm a lot more aware of, okay, so now I've got this asymmetry feeling or whatever. And I know the practitioners I want to see to address it if I think I can't myself.
Gotcha.
B, I think I know enough about the foundation training exercises that I think
which
can
ones
address
to move.
it. Yes.
Yeah, right, yeah. Which is empowering, isn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely empowering.
Because then when you get that flare up, it doesn't panic you. You don't go into, holy shit, I'm going back the wrong way. You're like, that's cool. I know what to do. I've got the tools.
I know what to do. I know what not to do.
Yeah.
And quite often a walk instead of a run, quite often what I call a tea bag, which is just
jump in the ocean.
Go and lie around in the ocean as opposed to putting in a dedicated 2K swim or something like that.
Great.
So, it's...
Was there a moment when you thought you weren't going to be able to keep your occupation going because of your back pain? Because I hear I see quite a few tradies in the thick of it questioning their occupational career choices moving forward.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's a real tough one because I think if they can invest the time and energy like you have to learn the things you've learned, then I think they can have a great career, but they're going to have to be mindful and develop those tools to allow them to anyone, an athlete does. So if you've got a physical occupation, you do too.
Yeah.
You're not, but some of them, Yeah, I find it a hard conversation to have, actually.
Yeah, so a colleague of yours in town here, he was my go-to and still is physio mate.
Mm.
And other practitioners have said to myself and other people I know really well, well, you're just going to have to give up plumbing and do something else. And it's kind of like, as nice as that sounds, we kind of gravitate back to where we can do the least work for the most money if you've got mouths to feed and stuff like that.
Yeah, but also if that's what you love doing, there's got to be a way to get back to it.
Yeah, so there was a time, and I've done things differently as I've got older and wiser. I think we've got to do things differently. So, you know, the manual handling practices have changed. There's a lot more mechanical. Digging even these days hardly gets done. But digging's a very functional movement. It was done before the wheel.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't discount sometimes digging. You get paid to go to work to get fit. It's
well, it's all about how you dig, I'd imagine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even in digging, there's so much about your foot placement. You know, are you going left to right, right to left? You know, if everything's working well and you take that approach, and even lifting.
And that's what I do. I teach that. There's a static hold and a little bit of movement, you know, in an exercise in foundation training called the woodpecker.
Okay.
And it's absolutely digging.
Right.
It is seriously. If I was versed in that body position, that strong posterior chain activation with one leg forward, one leg back.
Yeah.
When I was 17.
Yeah.
Instead of, well, I'm 55 next week, but I feel better at 55 than when I did at 35.
Oh, that's great. Not many people can say that.
No, and it's just.
But that's you
digging.
You did that.
Well, yeah, and that's what I try and
that's
tell
the
people
part.
in the class is don't underestimate the power of you, because all as I'm doing is giving a little bit of instruction that was given to me.
Yeah.
And I'm making suggestions on the duration that you might hold a pose, or you might do one class a week, you might do 2 classes a week, you might do 1 class a month, you might bring it into the everyday movement. But for me, it's kind of like use whatever works for you in your everyday life. And I love the foundation crew talk about taking regular movement snacks during the day. It's just a nice way to phrase it, because who doesn't drag themselves away from their work site, desk, whatever, and have a cuppa? Yeah. And a sandwich or a biscuit or whatever.
That's right. Nourish your body.
Yeah. So who doesn't want to do that? It'll turn it into a movement snack and just go, oh, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. And that's a lot of Katie Bowman's idea about that. She did a great study. I don't know if it was her or she talks about it, where they even looked at like triathletes who do this intense exercise for maybe 2 hours a day versus someone who is just versed in moving frequently, like walking to school with the kids, carrying the shopping home, and they were moving perpetually throughout the day versus the triathlete who did the 1 hour and then went to a desk job and then did an hour after what? So training hard, but their movement, overall movement during the day was less than someone who has an active job, and you think, man, even athletes who think they're moving and training, they're not necessarily getting that variety and the constantness of moving. So, yeah, good idea, the movement snacks.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Now, if I say bulletproof back, what comes to mind for you?
Firstly, the back, very important.
Right.
But it's only part of the whole story. It's part of the body.
Yeah.
So
good point.
Yeah. So if you're, like we work primarily in front of us. Our eyes face forward, our hands are forward. We walk forward mostly. So the posterior chain, which obviously goes from maybe your plantar fascia all the way around your heel, right up the back of your skull. So if that could be stronger when it's loaded to pull us back out of anterior carriage or forward bending, then that's not just your back. That is kind of a bulletproof body that is hip-centric, I suppose, in its focus.
Yeah, right. I like that.
So we touched on it earlier. Make sure this thing that is our body is fit for purpose. So if we want certain things out of it, then train or exercise and or rest with that in mind. So if you don't need it to move through an extreme range, but you train in extreme range, but that delivers you with a bit of pain and then you have to have a day off, or you simply can't do those things you want to do, and one of them might be work, then realise that. So it's probably an awareness.
Yeah.
Awareness will give you a bulletproof back.
Are we getting into the tips now? So what are your top 3 tips for someone who's actually sitting, listening now, and they're in stubborn back pains, things are aching, and they're like, all right, Neil, tell me 3 things that I can think about to get to where you are.
If you can't know it or feel it yourself, get help to move properly.
Right.
And
which I will say is not common knowledge.
No.
Even amongst movement trainers.
And
there's quite a debate on what good movement is. But I guess a therapist or a movement trainer will have more of an idea than perhaps you do.
Yes,
so you could work off that idea.
Yeah.
Anything they know is going to be more than I know, so I'm going to learn something.
Yeah, so if you've got trained eyes on you from the outside in, you're not going to be able to tell fibs.
Yep.
You know, you'll tell fibs to yourself.
Yes.
And you'll put it off till you're really broken, like we spoke about earlier. So get advice or help how to move sustainably. Get strong.
Yep.
And strength is not just in one area. You get overall strong.
Which is what you're saying about bulletproof backs. Like the back can only be as strong as everything else in the body.
Yeah. Well, I think we've all seen the almighty great tennis players with one big, strong serving arm.
Yeah.
And that must have an end point, you know, to take the body out of symmetry.
Yes. Like
that, then there's got to be a payoff one day.
Yes.
So I know for years the left-hand side of my spine, the rector spino muscles, were so much more pronounced. And myself and a family chiropractor, I think he was way back when, he recognised it and he asked me what I'd been doing predominantly on the left side of my body after I'd been living in Margaret River for probably 6 or 8 years, and I went back over the East Coast where I grew up and visited the family practitioner.
Yeah.
He said, your left-hand side of your spine is just way out of it. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's like you've just been doing like one-arm bicep curls.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and I was like, we do a lot of we do a lot of hand digging in the early days in Margaret River.
Right.
So wet sand, really easy to dig. You can dig it for hours.
Yeah.
You're in your 20s. You just want to please the boss, get the job done, get knocked off and go surfing.
Yeah.
So, the left-hand side of my body was
had reacted to that.
Yeah, so I suppose what I'm getting at there is get strong all over, because if you get strong in one area, it might not be the most beneficial.
Yeah,
thing.
which is when I just want to put in that idea that strengthening your core fixes back pain. I don't know why that's the biggest myth that
crunches.
Yeah, it's one muscle.
Yeah.
It's one muscle. All of you matters just as much as that one muscle. So think beyond the core. So
if I interject there, and these are Eric Goodman's words, the core and foundation training is all the muscles that join the hip joint from below, above, and within.
Okay,
so
it's a better definition, isn't it?
It's this greater area than this sort of grapefruit-sized area below our navel, above our pubic bone, that people go, core, you've got to get your core strong. Well, the core and foundation training almost goes from below the knee to the collarbone, and it radiates away from the hip joint, but it also pulls back to the hip joint at the same time.
Yeah, and I think Paul Hodges was the physio who did the research about transversus, and he showed that when people have had a bout of pain, that's the muscle that becomes deactivated by the pain. And so his research showed that if you could reactivate it, people had really good improvements in back pain. Great research, but been totally misinterpreted, totally taken out of context, and I'm sure even he probably lays in bed every night going, oh my God, why did I do that study? Because so much dysfunction's been created.
Yeah.
But I think, people are learning. And that's, I think, foundation is talking about a foundation rather than using the word core. It's a nicer word, really, isn't it?
I think it's just such a great label to give it.
Yeah.
It doesn't come with any, if you knew Eric Goodman and his team, it comes with zero ego. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's not the only thing you should do.
Yeah.
Can you do too much of it? Yes.
Yeah.
It's a bit like anything.
Yeah.
You could probably make an analogy, but it can be tied into everything else what we do that's positive.
Yeah, and a good movement system will do that, won't it?
Just integrate it.
That's right. Life. Yeah, I like all those different movements, but exposing yourselves to them because they all at some point with some movement you're doing come into play. The more of them that you play with, the more you can draw them in. So we've got what was before Get Strong? What was your first tip?
The movement. Just get advice on
quality movement.
Yeah, quality of movement.
Get strong. And final one?
Diet.
Interesting.
Well,
I wasn't expecting that.
Well, the word anti-inflammatory.
Okay.
So pain is inflammation.
Gotcha.
There's plenty of ways to mitigate inflammation, I suppose.
Gotcha.
So if your diet is not the greatest, then you can change that. If you're carrying a little bit of extra weight and it's negatively affecting the other things you want to do in your life, you can change that. If you're underweight and it's negatively affecting what you want to do with your body, you can change that. So they're all things you can change. So I suppose there's just like spokes in the wheel, isn't it? There's movement, there's hydration, there's sleep, there's sleep and rest. I like to differentiate between those. So if you're not getting quality sleep, then you're probably not repairing as good as you could. A rest for a boxer might be, I'm just going to go for a 5K easy run today and just do some light mitt work. A rest for somebody like myself who's, looking to just have a day where I'm not focusing so hard on going for a strong swim or a strong surf. Might just go for a walk with the dog. So active rest.
Yes, that's a
as
great
opposed
term.
to active sitting rest around on the lounge and whatever.
And if you're a runner, it's probably going for a walk.
Exactly.
So I see what you're saying there. That's a good idea. Yeah. And if you're a gardener who's always like, digging and pruning and doing hard stuff, it might just be going around fertilising. There's grades within what we do that some intensity, some light.
Yeah. Gardening is, I think of a few movements or chores we do in life that foundation just is absolutely made for.
Perfect. So
it's gardening and working in a kitchen.
Wow, interesting.
Well, it's the chefs, they get stuck in this internal shoulder rotation.
Yeah.
If they can't hip hinge, they'll normally lock out at the knees and stay loaded in a curved spine, not asking the big movers, not the big posterior chain muscles. And gardening can be the same. If you just if you can't keep the posterior chain, the big muscles activated to do the load, the big work, then the little ones are going to have to take over, and they won't like that, and they'll let you know.
No, and I think a lot of us aren't doing enough natural movements that keep those muscles active. We're sitting a lot, which is turning it off completely.
Yeah.
When we walk, we don't stride out.
No.
We have these short little steps and, stairs even. Not many people,
stairs.
Taking them is great, but most of our environments are structured these days to be flat or elevators or, we're not really getting even that opportunity. So I can see the benefit in activating that. Yeah. So what Neil has kindly offered to do, and I'd love to see the woodpecker.
Oh, the woodpecker.
You talked about that one.
Yeah.
We're going to just record a 10, 12-minute little movement video at the end of this, and we'll link to that. That'll be on the YouTube version of the podcast. We'll just add that link somewhere, but you'll be able to check out and have a little bit of an idea of what foundation training looks like.
Absolutely.
Great.
And
So thank
Marion
you.
will know what it feels like.
Yeah, well, I'll be recording.
Oh, if I can do it.
Yeah, whatever works. We'll work it out. Okay, so thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
And great to have the chat as usual. And thanks to the listeners. And feel free, I haven't sort of mentioned this before, but if you have got questions after one of the chats and you hear them and you're like wanting some more information, then just drop us a line and contact us and we'll try and get you the right information for what you're seeking.
So Foundation Training's got a wonderful website, obviously www.foundationtraining.com.
Great.
And if you go there, there's a raft of
opportunities.
You can find myself under Find a Trainer via email only.
Great.
And then I'll
we'll put your class links. Are you at this yoga studio? Yeah. So we'll link to wherever. If you're specifically in Mugga River and you want to go and train with Neil, then all the info will be there. All right. So thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see who else we can rustle up for the next victim.
Okay. Thanks. Sweet.
Thanks for listening to Building Bulletproof Backs. To learn more about Marion's unique 8-week Building a Bulletproof Back online course, visit the link in the show notes. You will receive a step-by-step system providing mental, physical, and emotional strategies for smashing your back pain to the curb. Ain't nothing like this anywhere else on the market. Become your own hero.